Everyone, welcome to HOA Fight Club. I'm Raylene Schifano. Today I'm going to discuss the things that we have control of in our associations. I know there's a lot of things that we don't have control of when we're in an HOA and a condo association. And a lot of people think that we don't have any power as homeowners. Now, where I agree that the power, the balance of power is very lopsided. It does favor the association board, property manager, and attorney over the homeowners, which it should be the checks and balance. We should have something that balances out the power, but there isn't that power. The boards are very powerful because they have the attorney to be the enforcer. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, that attorney can just charge those fees to your account, which puts you past due, which is a very well-known tactic that these associations use is the use of a threat of an attorney. We're going to charge you attorney fees. If you complain at all, we're going to charge you attorney fees. That type of threat, to me, is an extortion type threat. We shouldn't be able to use the attorneys as a leverage tactic. There should be processes in place that add balance to these associations. But in the meantime, we have to do what we can do. So you are required as a homeowner to know the laws. You are required to know the declaration and the bylaws. You are required to know everything about that association once you've bought into that. Now, most homeowners, when they buy into these, they're very complacent. They don't participate. They don't even know a lot of the times that there's an association even involved, except for they make their payments. Now, let's think about this. This is our biggest investment we ever make. We are giving our money to an uneducated volunteer board and trusting that they will do what is right with that money. Now, there is no guarantees that this board even knows what they're doing. There's no background checks. There's no licensing. There's no education required in most states. And like in Washington state, the property managers don't even have to be licensed. Now, those property managers that are licensed, they should know the laws, right? No, they don't. And it has been brought to my attention that they don't know the laws. So this is budget and budget season. So at the end of every year, the board has to come up with a budget. They have to put the budget out to the people and they have to get it, they have to vote on it. Now, there does not have to be, I don't even, a lot of the states don't require even a quorum to approve a budget. They just have to have 51% to deny a budget. So most people think you can go to the budget meeting and the majority of the owners that are there at the meeting can vote down a budget. Most states, that's not true. You have to have 51% of the voting power. So if you have 5,000 homes in your community, you're going to have 2,501 homes vote against that budget to deny the budget. And then it stays the way it is until they create a budget that is voted on by everybody else. But there are other things that have to be done. Washington state is very specific on certain things that you have to follow to ratify a budget. And if you don't follow this process, you can get a re-over on those budget. Now, does it save you money? Maybe. I've seen boards trying to increase the budget, 50%. So if your dues are going from $500 a month to $1,000 a month, there's a really big concern that you want to have your vote count and be able to get your neighbors together. So now waiting until the last minute is not going to help you. You have to be proactive in your association. Remember, you joined this community and you promised that you would participate. So my suggestion is participate. Make sure that the board is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So let's look at, this has been brought to my attention in Washington state that the boards are not doing what they're supposed to do. So in doing that, they are causing the budgets can be contested. So I was going to share my screen with you, but I'm having some issues. And I want to make sure that I get this with you. All right, so we are going to cancel that and we are just going to read this to you. So The associations, what they're doing is they're sending out false and misleading statements that reserve studies comply with the RCW 6490. Now, in Washington state, there's a lot of RCW codes that cover each different type of HOA condo and all of those kind of things. But 6490 is actually over. There are things that are retroactive to all the laws. So 6490 refers to what you have to have in your budget. Well, you have to have the reserve study as part of it. So omitting any of the 12 required items equals non-compliance. There is a consistent problem. A statement of the amount of the current deficit or surplus in the reserve funding is not being disclosed. The ratification notice missing information. Examples, the dates of the assessments are due. The assessments are due on the 1st of every month. They have to say that in the budget proposal. A statement of whether the association has a reserve study that meets the requirements. Not the reserve study, they have to have a statement. They have to have a written statement that says, this is what it is, and this is what the reserve studies requirements are. And the annual lump sum difference between you or between how you're funding the reserve and the recommended funding from your reserve study. The current efficiency or surplus in a reserve funding expressed in a per unit basis. So they have to say how much each unit is in surplus or deficit. That's what they have to put in that. So the board must provide unit owners along with the annual budget adopted in accordance to RCW 6495-25, any notice of any such without reading. Sorry, my computer's running off the edge. Let's see, without such a notice of withdrawal, a statement of the current deficiency in reserve funding, or expressed on the unit basis or the prepayment plan. So if you guys borrow from your reserve studies, you actually have to repay the fees usually within a year. So those are things that have to be disclosed in the proposal for the budget. If they don't do this, you have to require a do-over. If the proposed budget is rejected or the required notice is not given, some budgets require 30 days notice, which I've seen a lot. You have to give that notice 30 days prior to that budget meeting. The plain language of the statutes is neither ambiguous nor confusing. So why are there so many problems? Management companies aren't invested in getting it right because their customers allow them to get it wrong, because the members or those customers allowing their community associations to get it wrong with no consequences, because the board members don't know the requirements. Homeowners don't know the requirements. Nobody reads the disclosures thoroughly. Nobody wants to rock the boat. Nobody cares enough to act. Concerns about the potential time and dollar cost of taking the action. So we are allowing this to continue because it's too hard. When we allow the boards and these professionals to do things wrong, we are allowing it to continue. If we allow things to happen in our associations, if we allow a board to be rogue, then we are allowing it to continue. And I know that nobody wants to be a target. I know that we don't want to be that person that is attacked by a board and these professionals, because it is a very unbalanced, unjust system. But we have to do something. So if your board is not responding and you have recalled them out and said, hey, you're not doing this right, my suggestion is write your legislators, send them a copy of your emails to the boards, let them know, let the Attorney General's office, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, just start making complaints. Now, those complaints may not be acknowledged, but they are recorded. Every complaint that we make to our government is recorded, and then we can get a FOIA request and show the government how many complaints are being made and ignored by our Attorney General's office. Everybody needs to make a complaint. If your property managers or the attorneys or even the board is not doing things correctly, make a formal complaint. Those complaints, again, are not going to be heard or probably even dealt with by our government or our Attorney General's office, but they will be recorded. And then we can get those complaints later and help our cause by showing the government that these complaints have been made and that people are concerned about how things are being ran. HOA dues are taxes. There should be a very transparent way our taxes are being taken in, spent, accounted for. how the budgets are being done. We should expect everything we expect from our government, we should expect from these community associations, and we should hold both responsible. If I call the government out for doing their things that are wrong, I'm a whistleblower. But if I call the HOA board out for doing things wrong, I'm a target. So government officials, we need to do something to make this balanced and equal in these associations, because these associations are the municipality over our funds, over our homes, and we need some accountability from these board members that are volunteers, just like you are as a legislator, is a volunteer to represent the people in your community. These volunteers should not be above the law, and they sure shouldn't be held harmless if they're intentionally avoiding the law. And the professionals, they shouldn't be above the law at all. They should be held accountable for every little thing they do, because they're professionals. And Washington State, we need to license some people in our property managements, because we are having a huge problem with property managers in Washington State. They're the problems. They don't know what they're doing, and it's causing a lot of damages. And those that do know what they're doing are taking advantage of the laws for their own personal gain. And we can prove this by having examples of people putting fines on homeowners and then trying to collect those fines as a lien in foreclosure. So there's a lot of things we can do to make a change. Participate, be a part of your association. All right, you guys, I'll see you on the next one.